Good evening, my name's Jason Debly, and tonight's whiskey review is a Kentucky straight bourbon called 1792 Small Batch. Have the bottle right here, and 1792 is the year, if you didn't know, when some territory in Virginia split off and became the 15th state of the United States called Kentucky. So in honor of that year, there's this small batch 1792 that's put out by a distillery, and the distillery is the Barton 1792 distillery in Bartonstown, Kentucky. It's owned by Sazerac Group, if I'm pronouncing that properly. This bourbon is not expensive. It's under $30 in the United States. It ranges from as cheap as $22. I've seen it for $26, $27. All depends where you buy it, what state. Now in Canada, $51. And in Australia and in England, it's up there. It's not as cheap as the equivalent 22 to 27 US. Little word about the alcohol by volume. It's a big dog. It's 46.93%, I think. 46.85%. Yep, 46.85%, which works out to 93.7 proof. So it's strong. It's a big dog. Now, there's no age statement. The format is 750 milliliter. The stopper on it is cork, which is kind of impressive for bourbon under $30. This would compete with Old Grandad 114 and with Wild Turkey 101, both of which don't have a cork stopper and are in the same price range or even cheaper. The other thing I should tell you about small batch, or 1792 small batch, is that it's undergone a bit of rebranding. When I first encountered this bourbon, it was called 1792 Ridgemont Reserve, and it had on the back label an age statement of, I think, 8 years. It was very good then, and prior to that it had been called 1792 Ridgewood Reserve, and so after all of that, there was some litigation with Woodford Reserve, which is a well-known Kentucky straight bourbon, and they've adopted the name of 1792 Small Batch. Okay, let's check this out. And another word I've got to tell you about here is, or another point to make, is as you can see, I've worked this bottle down quite a bit. It's enjoyed a lot of oxidation, and that's important to this review because this whiskey, when I originally purchased it 4 or 5 months ago, it was very powerful, very fiery on the nose. You really get a sense that this is tough stuff and kind of unbalanced. And then on the palate, I didn't really like it. It was quite disturbing. It was just really rough bourbon with kind of an odd flaw of just fieriness. The oxidation, being opened in the bottle, moving that bottle down a bit, has really improved the taste to what it is today. So on the nose, you're now getting classic rye and char, like wood char. Certainly some vanilla that you didn't get when you originally opened the bottle. The aromas now are quite pleasant. Now on the palate, it's a bold, big whiskey. We don't know what the Mashbill is. I looked on the internet after I kind of sampled this and made my tasting notes. All I could learn is purportedly between 15 and 25% rye content, and the rest being like corn and other grains that go into Kentucky bourbon. Definitely there is a rye presence. Definitely there's a corn note. It's spicy, it's big. brown sugar, sugar donut, caramel, a lot of vanilla. Your finish is a bit more of a mineral note, I think limestone. The oak comes through on the finish. And the finish is surprisingly got a bit of a spring water note to it in a good way. I'm drinking this without water. If you add water, which I think is recommended at this alcohol by volume, it transforms it quite a bit. So when you add water, you mute the nose quite a bit. The nose becomes much more like fall leaves, and on the palate, softer, more approachable, much more oak. Right now, with the oxidation and at the current bottle level, I prefer it straight. But I must say, at that high alcohol by volume, it's very powerful, and I'm careful not to drink too much because you really feel it. I mean, 46.85% alcohol by volume is strong. The water helps. The question is how much, and that's subjective, and that's to your taste. What can I tell you in general about this bourbon? I think 1792 small batch, under $30 in the United States, it's a fair value for money proposition. I found it kind of fiery and unwieldy when I first opened the bottle. And then I went online, which is not something I ordinarily do. I read other people's reviews, and they also had the same experience. But once it had opened up and you worked your way down the bottle a bit, it got better. But you know, the first quarter of the bottle, I was drinking this and going like, why am I drinking this? I don't like this. It competes with, like I said, Wild Turkey 101, Old Grandad, even Jim Beam Black. And I think I would take all of those over this. If you're a Woodford Reserve fan, or you really like that big dog rye bite, and you like Wild Turkey 101, and you're willing to kind of buy a bottle, maybe pour a dram, and then let it, you know, the bottle be open for a couple of months, not with the cork off, but just unopened so that oxygen has gotten in, it will improve a lot. And that's surprising. And if I paid $22, throw some ice in or a bit of water, I'm okay. But I think in Canada, paying $51, I'm disappointed. Buffalo Trace is a better value for money proposition in Canada. Thank you for your review. Cheers. Take care.